The getC function is really a collection of functions used to import common dataset file types into R. Once you select the file to import, the getC function is supposed to automatically detect the file type, apply the best function for the job, and return an already data frame to you. The getC function does not have any required arguments. If you run getC without specifying the file to be imported, you will be automatically prompted to browse to the file and select it. The getC function will then preview the results and ask you to confirm that you want to proceed before returning the imported dataset. It is important to point out that getC does not store its output automatically. To store the function's output, you need to assign the data frame it returns as a name object. If you're doing ongoing work with a dataset, you can use getC's file argument to specify the name of the file and set its confirm argument to false. To learn how to use the getC function, let's work through some examples. Datasets can be saved in many different file formats, and the getC function attempts to make it easy for the user to import datasets into the R environment, no matter from a variety of different types of file formats. The very basic usage of the function is very basic indeed. All we do is type the name of the function getC with a capital C followed by parentheses and hit run. And when you run this, it will start to try to import data into R, and it says if you did not specify the file to get, would you like to choose it now? Enter Y to continue, or enter any other key to cancel. So if we hit Y and enter, the function will automatically pull up a select file dialog. Here it is on my computer. Pardon the mess. So here is the dialog to select the file. So it's asking me to select the file that I want to import. Let's say, for example, I want to call up one of the data sets from the 6th edition of the SPSS companion. Here are the data sets. So let's say I want to look at the companion's version of the states data set. So I navigate to the file, select it, and then hit open. And then back in our world, I see that it reports the file that I've selected, the path to that file on my computer. It says that the file type is SAV, that's the format or the suffix for a SPSS dataset file. And it gives me a preview of the file as a data frame. So it's kind of giving me, before everything gets imported or brought into our world, it's showing me just a preview of what it looks like. And I can look at this and say, okay, well, I see the variables, the first 3, and then I see the rows. So it's looking okay. Like I'm not seeing any like unusual characters, and this is, what I think it is. So that's good. That's why it's giving me the preview. And then it says, before getC returns this data set, please verify you're not going to overwrite something. Enter Y to continue, or enter any other key to cancel. So what's happening is this is going to return a data set to me. And depending on how I store the data set, I potentially could overwrite data existing in my computer, so in my R session. So for example, this RCPA3 package has a states dataset, an updated version of this one that was from the 6th edition of the SPSS companion. If I import the old SPSS dataset as states, it has potential to overwrite the states dataset that I'm working with currently with the older version. So it's kind of a warning not to overwrite something and potentially lose the data that you're working with. So I'm gonna hit actually any other key to cancel, and then show you how you would work it to save it. So let's say I want to work with the data in the environment. I just more or less previewed it then. I might say need to give it an argument and name. I might say that give the imported data set a name as an object, and I might say that this data set should be called in the R environment states.SPSS. So I know it's a different version of the states data set, that one that I'm familiar working with. At this point, I could run the same process again, import data. Would I like to select it? Yes. Here's the window. It's selected. I'll get that states data set again. Hit open. It should give you my preview. Still looking okay to me. And then when it says, are you ready to, import this? Are you sure you're not going to overwrite anything? I'm feeling confident now because I didn't name the data set states. I named it something different than states, so I can tell my imported data set apart from the one that's already in the package. So now I will say yes to continue. And it gives me a warning here. Some detail within the data set isn't translated perfectly, but I can see in the environment window that I have a new object, states.SPSS. It has 50 observations of 200 variables, and that 50 should reassure me because it's the states and there are 50 states. And so I've got the data that I wanted to work with into the R environment, and now I could apply different analysis functions to the states.SPSS to analyze that data. Even though I don't even have SPSS on this computer, I've successfully imported an SPSS file and it could now work with it in the R environment. So the getC argument can be used without any required arguments. If you want to select the file on your computer and go through the process of confirming before you import the data set. The optional arguments are useful if you know what data set that you're working with and you want to shortcut the process a bit. Let me show you how that would work. So I'm just going to copy the argument I use to import the states data set, SPSS version of the states data set with the getC function. There are two optional arguments that are particularly useful. One is called file, and the other is called confirm. File can be set equal to the file that you selected. This got reported when I imported that states dataset file. It said file selected. The only problem, so this is the path to the file on my computer. The only problem with this, I think these slashes are going the wrong direction, and there are two of them. So I'm going to change these double backslashes into single forward slashes. There we go. To specify the file, and then if I'm feeling confident, I can set confirm equal to false, which means it's not going to ask me to confirm that the file is what I want before it imports it. I'm going to give this a different object name so we can tell that it's imported this successfully. So it should look the same in the environment, same number of observations and variables. So let's give this a run. It should skip the steps of finding the file on my computer and also skip the steps of confirming it. Okay, so it just went ahead and did it with that function call. You see that states.SPSS2, the same data set, just with the new name. What I would recommend using this function is like the first time, if you're going to get just to analyze the data set one time, to navigate to your computer is not really a problem. In fact, it's kind of time saving not to have to type in the file name. And it's a good way, if you're importing a data set for the first time to analyze it, to navigate it to your computer to make sure it's what you want before you're importing it. But if you're going to work with the data set repeatedly, say you're writing a paper or doing a presentation or an independent study, and you're looking at the same data set repeatedly, and so in a number of R sessions you want to import that data set to analyze it, what I recommend is do what I did, and I illustrated in the basic usage part, to get it into the system to make sure it's what you want. But then once you've executed, what you want and know that it's working, then I would add the file argument and the confirm argument to your script file and save it. That way, you have like what I have here in lines 11, 12, a nice simple function call that imports my data set without an additional hassle of selecting the file or confirming it. I know that it works and it should work every time as long as I don't move the file, and it's easy to run, and now I've got the data in the our environment to analyze it. So now I want to talk about the limitations of our getC function. So getC function is one of those functions that works great when it does, but doesn't always work. Like I said at the beginning of the first demonstration, there are a lot of different ways to store data, a lot of different file format types. The getC function works with some of the most common usual suspects like stata files, SPSS, RData, and CSV files. For those file types, it has sort of native routines that can import data successfully. But the problem is, the other file types, with from other statistical programs, or their storage types, and even the file types that it imports successfully. All of these programs, Stata and like Stata SPSS, they're going to have versions of those programs written that may change the file type subsequent to our creating the getC function. So even if the function works great for current versions of Stata, there's not really a guarantee that it would work great for subsequent versions of Stata. There's not always a guarantee of forward compatibility. It particularly rears its head when it comes to Excel files and web data. So Excel's a great program and a great way to store data. But if you've worked with Excel, you know that like in an Excel workbook, you can have multiple worksheets. And then on worksheets, you can store functions, you can do graphics and color coding and all kind of this good stuff to add to a worksheet, which can make the worksheet more attractive. But the problem is when you're trying to import, then what do you do with all that extra stuff that's on the worksheet? So when you have extra stuff on a worksheet, like automated presentation, like color-coded presentation, or functions, or macros, or graphics, it'd be kind of junk to R when it comes to just importing just the data off a worksheet and not that other stuff. There are a good number of packages and functions out there to work with Excel data. But just when developing this getC function, I found that the Excel formats, the versions of Excel and the various Excel formats and the variety of things that you can encounter in an Excel worksheet was really too great to make it work with a simple getC function call. And if you do run getC and attempt to open a Excel file, you should get a message from the function suggesting those other packages to you. Let me try to demonstrate this. So would I like to select it? Yes. And I will select a file that's in Microsoft Excel format. Sure. No, that's a CSV file. Okay, so yeah, so here's a variety of the files created by Microsoft Excel. Some of them are in .csv format. Those should load fine. That's comma separated values. So even if it was created by Excel, that's a simplified version, a data storage protocol. Here's one though, this code book. It's with this .xlsx. So that is an Excel file style worksheet. Now if I try to import this, okay, there we go. So I got this message that's saying error in getC. Sorry, Excel format files not supported by getC. Suggestions: you can save your Excel file in .csv format, which would make it easier to load, and if you have Excel and can save the file in the .csv format, you'll then be able to load the .cvs format, CSV format file into R with the getC function. Or it suggests a handful of packages: Excel Connect, Read Excel, or XLSX packages to read Excel format files. So there's a variety, like I said, a variety of packages to read Excel data, not supported in this getC function, but available to you. Those packages and the functions in those packages have their own arguments. And like I said, I think Excel, given the variety of things that you can put in a workbook to specify the functions correctly to get that data into our world, gets a bit complicated, more complicated than I wanted to make the getC function. Another variety of data, it's obviously increasingly popular, is data from the internet, like tables on the internet or web pages, or the variety of media you might encounter in web pages. The getC function does none of that. When you set the file has to be something on your computer. The file can't be like a URL of a web page. It's not going to import tables off the internet or read or scrape data from web pages. There are, if you get into that, there are packages that do that for various types of files from various sources on the internet. It just gets more complicated than we wanted to create for the getC function. For that kind of data, there are options to read it directly from the internet. The alternative is to basically copy the data from the internet and paste it into a program like Microsoft Excel, and then save the table pasted from the internet into Excel into a format like the .csv file, and then with your CSV file import it, perhaps using a function like getC, into the R environment to analyze it.